In studio, we are graced by the presence of Brown General Manager Andrew Barry. He joins us live in studio. We've got a lot of real work we got to cover with you in terms of where we are with everything, but just in generalities, week one, here we go. You've spent all of this time curating this roster, the training camp, all of it, and now we're here. What are these days and these nights like for you leading up to it?
Say this, there's a ton of excitement around our building. We're looking forward to week one. We get our fans back at our home stadium for what seems like ages, and we know they're going to be loud. We know they're going to be cheering on our guys. We have our in-state division rival. So there's just a lot of excitement and anticipation to get the 2025 season started.
And I don't know, we were talking about, I don't know if this just felt like a longer off season than normal, but it felt very, very like, I feel like we were in Charlotte a year ago. And now we're here. You get to see games and see this thing come together. I got to ask you, when you kind of sat back after the draft, after the undrafted free agent period, did you envision a roster that could have 12 rookies on it and potentially, we'll get to Quinshon in a second, potentially 13 at some point even?
I'd say we typically after the draft, we don't go necessarily in with any preconceived notions.
Sure.
Because there are a number of roster spots and then probably just as importantly or more importantly roles to be decided in the in the succeeding months.
Sure.
So we don't necessarily say, okay, hey, look, this is how the 53 is going to be cut. There's just a lot of unknown as you exit the bulk of the player acquisition cycle. And so I'd say that we had a number of pleasant surprises, some players that maybe surprised us in a different direction, but we are pleased with this young crop of players and particularly this rookie class with what we've seen so far. So we're excited to kind of walk the journey with them as we go through the year.
And speaking of that, the one who isn't here is Quinshon. Is there an update that you can share for us and the fans on where we are with that?
Yeah, we, much like our fans, are anxious to have, Quinshon in soon. And we're hopeful that's the case, but that's all I can say at this point.
Yeah, going through that. And then
We're all hopeful.
we're all hopeful
Come
to
on.
get 10 back in the
Let
mix.
us hug you.
And then Miles today out of practice. And we saw this. We just read the statement from the organization. Just anything with Miles to be concerned about.
Yeah, so this is the time of year where I defer all injury questions to Kevin Stefanski, no different than our players. So you guys can ask him tomorrow at his press conference.
Big smile.
Well, you got a coach's show tonight.
Yeah, we got a coach's show tonight. We do have a coach's show tonight.
You can get that answer tonight, maybe on that side of things.
We might actually have to. We might have to
with
use the time machine and get that question in there. Going back, kind of just talking about the rookies, and you're excited to see them, the draft picks, and then pleasant surprise. I mean, Aiden Huntington couldn't be more of a joy.
Mm-hmm.
Gage Larvidan, total joy, and there were others. Easton Mascarenas Arnold running over the place. Donovan McMillan, Dom Jones. You had these guys come and make this football team. But is this have you been around a roster like this in all your time here, where you've got? Let's use the number 12. We talked about 12 rookies. We got 12 Pro Bowl legit guys as well, and it's kind of an interesting mix of a super established talent and youth.
I'll be honest, I never really thought of the roster composition in that light, so I'm trying to process as you framed it that way.
Sure.
'Cause I didn't really think of it that way. I don't know necessarily the exact numbers. I guess as I think through my career, maybe the most similar would have been 2012 in Indianapolis, where there were a number of vets that had been on the roster. When Peyton was the quarterback, you had Reggie, you had Robert, you had Dwight, you had those guys, some of those vets, but also like a relatively large rookie class that was thrown into significant roles. Obviously, Andrew was the headliner, but you had Kobe Fleener, Dwayne Allen, T.Y. Hilton,
That's right.
Vic Ballard, guys like that. So I wouldn't draw maybe like a direct parallel or
Sure.
a direct maybe connection with some of these other teams, but that's probably the best example that I could think of, at least that I've experienced in my career.
And it's exciting because, I mean, when you look at in some way, some of the salary cap issues that have arisen with this football team for a variety of reasons, you need that young influx of talent. And this rookie class, it feels like, day one, Mason, Carson, Harold Fannin, Dylan, Quinshon when he comes back, potentially, some other guys that we got in here, Isaiah Bond late. These guys are going to play a big role, hopefully, for this football team.
Yeah, I'd say, so number one, we have a long way to go with all these guys.
Of course.
And we are excited that, we are going to have, new young faces in contributors roles, for the team. But we also don't want to get ahead of our skis. We're going to take it where our focus is on Cincinnati, 1 week at a time, and making sure that these guys improve over the course of the season.
Is there a moment, though, from your vantage point? I just think of a guy like Carson, who you guys take at the top of the second round, who, probably there aren't a whole lot of Browns fans who watched a whole lot of UCLA football. But you and I talked this summer. We had the event down at the stadium, and we had those guys in there, and it was like you guys had a feeling about him, and then you get to camp, and he validates all of it. I mean, he's been one of these stories. He was everywhere all camp long. That instance where you identify somebody in a process, you draft them, and then they validate. And again, we haven't played games and all of that, but it's okay to be excited about somebody who's been pretty dang good over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, Carson he's really passed all the tests up until this point. We are optimistic. We're optimistic with this class in general. That all being said, we do realize that Sunday is like the true measuring stick for us. And we want to make sure that continues to transfer once we get to regular season games. With any young player, you don't expect that individual to be perfect, right off the jump, but we do think that we have a talented group and we're looking for steady progress as we go through the year.
Just real quick to kind of update, it's the people on, we haven't talked to you since the 53, but there were some moves that were made at the 53 and then right after, bringing in KT Leviston, the tackle from the Rams, in a trade, and then we signed Rocket Sanders, the running back, and Jarek Bernard Converse, the cornerback. What was it about those three guys that you said, yeah, we need them in our program?
Yeah, so starting with KT, we always believe in getting as many big guys on the line of scrimmage as we can on both sides of the ball. And when we went through our preseason scouting process with our pro group, excuse me, he was a player that we identified that we thought was a really good, young, talented player. He missed pretty much all of his rookie year. He had a high ankle sprain, and then they kind of brought him back for 3 weeks of practice, but he never really saw preseason action or regular season action. Contrast that to this year. He played almost every snap in the preseason for them and played really good at left tackle. Power player who can get movement, really smart, great makeup. And we felt like he was the top tackle who could come available during the preseason process, on our board. And when we had the opportunity to acquire him, we did, and we're excited with what we've seen so far. With Rocket, he was a player that we had identified in this year's undrafted free agent process. We loved his size. We loved his speed. He's good in the pass game, which is usually hard for like a bigger back. Excuse me. And
get the boss a water. Water for the boss.
Yeah. Get a water here. Come on.
Get a water for the boss, G-Man. Where's the G-Man?
Thank you.
Crying out loud. I mean, guy's the boss.
Spare our audience's ears, right? That type of thing. So give me a moment, please.
Give a sip here, guys. I mean, G-Man, you got one job.
But with
shrapnel, G-Man.
I put it all on G-Man.
G-Man's closest to the refrigerator. Let's be fair.
I just want to. It's good for G-Man to catch some shrapnel every once in a while. Yeah, it's okay. It's all right.
All right. But with Rocket, in addition to being like a size back that's pretty good in the passing game, we love the kid as well. Really strong makeup. He's really caught on quickly with our offense, and we just felt like his size speed profile would fit really well. And then lastly, JBC at corner. We have behind Denzel and Greg. We do have a lot of young players who have to step up to opportunity this year, and JBC would also be in that role. He longer athletic quarter, can run. Kind of fits our press man coverage scheme on the outside. And so, this is a player that we thought had the tools and makeup where he could be successful in our defense. And, we looked at that as a place where we could be opportunistic.
Isn't football the dangest thing? I mean, if you think about it, like just think about it from the quarterback position. Some of the most fun we've had in this organization was the run Joe was on a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. First thing we do in the offseason is Kenny, see the value there, former first-round pick. Obviously, we know what's happened since then. Joe comes in. We have 4 quarterbacks in camp. At one point, we had 5. All of them are banged up except the 40-year-old. Somehow he's the healthy one, and he's going to get the start. And it's it's such a warm blanket to have him around. But that whole process, how you guys handled the room, kind of walk people through it, if you would, in terms of where we got to where we are now.
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about coming out of last season, given the changes that we were going to make in the quarterback room, is the ability to develop and evaluate a room with 4 players. We knew we were going to go to camp with 4 players. We knew we were going to carry 3, or like that was the plan initially, 3. And then really just how the offseason unfolded, we felt like we had 4 players that that we felt were 53-man worthy. And so a big way of how we structured and redesigned our practices is something that the offense staff calls 2-spotting. And it's essentially like what you see in college football, where you divide the team in half. It allows 2 quarterbacks to run one field, 2 quarterbacks to run the other, and that way everybody's able to get the reps that they need, and we'll be able to both evaluate and develop players at the position. That was a huge component of our spring and early on in camp. And then obviously, like we didn't have to carry it necessarily forward because unfortunately, someone was injured throughout camp, where it kind of worked itself out. Really with the exception of Kenny, because we didn't get a chance to see much of Kenny, but it worked itself out for the other players where there was just plenty of time on task, plenty of reps where we could make an evaluation and ultimately set the depth chart.
And you said it obviously with Dylan Gabriel at number 2 at the quarterback position. I just remember watching in his first start, just being like, the things that you liked about him on tape, he's showing you right now. And then it continued, obviously, against the Rams. Gave you guys a lot of comfort with him to make the decision to trade Kenny. You got a nice offer for him there. But how has Dylan been in terms of stepping into that role? We've got a very youthful quarterback, and obviously with Joe Flacco there now in that quarterback room, and with Shedeur. So 2 young guys and the wily old veteran.
Yeah, it's quite the contrast, right? But
in many ways.
In very many ways, right? We've got a lefty versus a righty, 40-year-old versus a 24-year-old, a 6'6" guy versus, a 5'11" guy. So understand it's a little bit of a contrast, but Dylan's been awesome. He is, wise and mature beyond his years. He has outstanding preparation habits. He's very smart. And he fits what we want to do. He's highly accurate, a good decision maker, has enough mobility, has a good arm, can make every throw that we need. And we've seen him just consistently and rapidly improve over the course of training camp.
All right, one just says it's fun talking about 53, but that also means tough things had to happen. And obviously the kicker position, that was a tough one. Dustin Hopkins 2 years ago, we don't go to the playoffs without him. He was absolutely brilliant, gets rewarded with a contract, doesn't work out. Last year was a struggle, and now you guys make the decision to go with Andre Smith. I know that had to be a hard one for a variety of reasons. Can you just kind of walk us through that and how Schmidt gave you guys the confidence? And I thought it was big to see him get that field goal attempt at the end of the Rams game, because I don't know if this is true or not, but in my mind it felt like he was at least thinking, if I miss this, I'm not going to be the kicker. So that's as much pressure as you can have on a kick, and he put it right down the middle.
So I'll start with Dustin. Dustin is someone that not just for me, but like across our organization, like love and appreciate. Not just what he did for us during the 2023 season.
Great dude.
I don't know that there's a more pure-hearted human being that I've met, and quite honestly, a fantastic father and family man. So like, it's always hard in those moments where someone like that is leaving your organization, but Dustin will be really like a lifelong friend for a number of people in the organization, myself included. Dre, he really, from the spring, and we measure and track everything, particularly with kickers, because you only get so many in-game opportunities. Yep. Really, it was about the way he kicked from the day he came on campus, so to speak. I mean, he was really lights out from the spring to the summer, and then every opportunity that he was able to get, during the preseason. Plenty of leg. We think he'll be an asset with the new kickoff rule as well. And he's unflappable, with everything that he's been through in his career and personal life. And I think you could see that in the preseason with the situations that he was placed in and his ability to execute. So we're optimistic on him, but he did a fantastic job of putting him in that position where it made the decision clear to us.
Hey, B, we'll get you out of here on this one. No, you got to run. Greatly appreciate your time. What is the standard that you will hold this team to this year?
Yeah, so our standard is we talk about having, a tough and competitive team. That's the barrier to entry with our locker room. And we talk about being smart, tough, accountable, resilient, and team-oriented. Like, that's ultimately going to be our team identity. And quite honestly, like, our focus is, like, whatever said externally doesn't really matter to us. Like, our focus is, as Kevin says, going 1-0 every week and knowing ourselves and knowing our opponent and how to ultimately win the game. So for us, we're very much blinders on, and our perspective is we're running 17 sprints, and we're going to do everything possible to maximize this week against Cincinnati, and when the game's over, we're going to flush it, and then we're going to move on to week 2. And if we do that and we can maintain that focus and that intensity and accountability to each other, we'll look up at the end of the year and see where we are.
I tell you what, I'm stealing the 17 sprints line.
It's
I'm
good.
using that on the kids,
Yeah.
on the youth sports. That's great. I love that. 17 sprints. Good luck, man.
Thank
It's
you
great
very
to
much.
see you here in studio.
Likewise,
General
guys.
Manager Andrew Berry in studio with us here on Cleveland Browns Daily.